Hello everybody, it's Starrapter here. Welcome back to another episode of This Week in Star Wars Canon, where every week I break it all down for you guys, from the comics to the novels to the TV series and anything else that connects back to the movies. So this week we do have new comics. I don't have the physical versions because outside here in the Northeast it is snowing like crazy, so I wasn't even going to try to risk driving out to get the comics. So I got the digital versions because I didn't want to leave you guys left behind because I'm going to be busy with Legion. So it's like, let me just do the digital comics while I'm here at home doing nothing while it's snowing outside. So first off, it's pretty cool how Marvel has the digital versions. They can kind of zoom in on each panel and do this kind of sequence of going from one panel to the next with this nice little transition. So yeah, I do recommend the digital comics, but I will always get the physical versions because I like that, tangible feeling, and I have a whole big collection now. So, but moving along, I want to talk about Poe Dameron issue number 25. So it's a miracle, really, that this series has gone for this many issues. At this point, it's going to surpass the first Darth Vader series, and this is getting pretty much right to The Force Awakens. So this issue, we have Lor San Tekka, and we have Terex that has left him in space, and he has contacted the First Order as well as the Resistance, and said, look, I left him out in this certain area of space, and go find him. And he basically wants the Resistance and the First Order to kill each other to get to Lor San Tekka. So the Resistance and the First Order show up just like Terex has imagined, and Lor San Tekka is just kind of floating off in space, and by the end of this little skirmish, the Resistance actually retrieves Lor San Tekka, and they bring him back to the base on Dakar, and Leia gets to have a nice little conversation with Lor San Tekka, and basically Lor San Tekka takes a ship and goes off and tries to find the whereabouts of Luke, and he does say that when he finds more information he will contact the Resistance, and then that's how we go into The Force Awakens with Poe finding him on Jakku. And this series will continue after this, and it's going to kind of go coincide with The Force Awakens and show us a little bit about what Poe has been doing in those scenes that we don't see him in The Force Awakens because he wasn't in a lot of The Force Awakens. But I digress. Let's get into the things that I enjoyed about Poe Dameron issue number 25. So first off, I like this whole squadron feel that we have gotten throughout the series. It's been very consistent, very good, Rogue Squadron-esque, getting between Kari and Snap and just Pava and Poe, of course, with BB-8 in there. And we have this great moment when they have this First Order cruiser that is coming in, and Poe has all the wingmates concentrate fire on the shields, and it brings down the shields for like a fraction of a second in just the right area where he's able to take the shields out permanently, and they're able to destroy the vessel, and that's how they get to Lor San Tekka. But it just shows us how great the Resistance pilots are about coordinating and focusing their fire and just being a well-oiled group that has fought in many battles together. And we're going to see hopefully more of that in episode 9 when these people finally come back to each other and form up again, hopefully. Another thing I liked is Kari and Snap actually getting what looks like is a marriage ceremony. So it was kind of strange but kind of nice because it seems like they were just buddies, like they were good friends, and they're like, let's talk about this later. And the next thing you know, they get married. I guess it's one of those spur of the moment things where it's like, okay, we might die tomorrow, let's get married today and just celebrate every day that we have together kind of thing. And I thought for sure that Carrie would die in this issue because there's even a moment when they're flying in space and they're kind of like being chased by TIE fighters, and it's like, let's wait until after this battle and we'll talk about it. It's like there's not going to be another tomorrow, but there really is, and it just makes you wonder where the heck is this Carrie character during the events of The Force Awakens, which we shall see in hopefully the next issue. Another thing that I really enjoyed was Leia and Poe getting to speak with Lor San Tekka. I didn't think that Leia would actually speak to Lor San Tekka right before the events of Force Awakens, and in that first scene with The Force Awakens with Poe and Lor San Tekka talking with one another, Lor San Tekka says, "Oh yeah, to me she's royalty," and so he had just met Leia before that and got the ship from her and whatnot. So that was pretty interesting, and it was really neat seeing that Poe was discussing with Lor San Tekka about the Force. These guys are both non-Force users, non-Force sensitive, but they both do know a little bit about the Force, especially Lor San Tekka, because he has this little inner monologue in the first opening pages of this comic, and he's talking about how he's been studying the Force and how he's been exploring it, and to him, it seems like the Force is awakening, right? So there's all these different things that are happening that he can kind of surmise that there's something going where the dark is going to reach the light, kind of like what Snoke says. So yeah, it's really cool that Lor San Tekka had this forethought, even though he's a non-Jedi, to be able to kind of predict what is happening. And the one thing I want to touch on is Terex. So Agent Terex, the big nemesis, the big villain for the majority of the Poe Dameron series. Now he's left out there in space. He's on his own. He's not with the First Order. He's not with the Resistance. So could he pop up in Episode 9? Will he pop up later on in this series? There was an article that came out on Marvel.com talking to Charles Soule, who is the writer, and saying, like, there was a certain statement that Soule said was basically like, I can't wait for others to experience more of the story going forward. It almost sounded like they're going to go into the Last Jedi or the post-Last Jedi kind of content, and it seems like that could be the case because the Marvel previews for June have just come out, the solicitations, and there is the one issue of Poe Dameron, I forget what number it is, but it has a Starkiller base battle. So it seems to me like the next issue after that could be a jump in time, or they could be going towards The Last Jedi. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm probably talking too much about the future. But that is my thoughts on Poe Dameron issue number 25. So moving along to Star Wars issue number 45. This is Mutiny on Mon Cala Part 2. So this kind of coordinates and crosses over with the Darth Vader series, also written by Charles Soule. In that one, we find out that there is a king and Vader's coming down to kind of figure out what's going on with Mon Cala. Now we're jumping in time, and Mon Cala is occupied by the Empire. We had in the previous issue of Star Wars, number 44, the Alliance trying to go down to Mon Cala, trying to recruit more of these Mon Calamari people for their cruisers, basically, because they have a lot of armaments, obviously. It doesn't work out. Whoever's in charge of the Mon Cala at this point doesn't want to risk it for the Empire, wants to save his own hide, it kind of seems like. So the rebellion figures out that this prince, this king, is been captured, and they would rather have him in rule because he might give them the cruisers and whatnot. So anyway, the Alliance goes back to their base, which I think is near Mon Cala. It's not important. And the Alliance High Command is there, and Leia brings up the idea to the High Command that they have to break out this particular king to get favor for the ships, and that is where the plan is, and it can't be that simple because in order to break him out, they need somebody to be this Moff. So their idea is they have to break out this changeling alien who I guess is a sympathizer for the rebellion, and he could kind of turn into the Moff enough so they can get inside the prison to get this this king out of there to help the Alliance. And it's a long-winded answer, and there's a lot of little twists and turns and little things. It's basically a heist arc, it seems like. So that is kind of where this issue leaves off, is they have this changeling, and now they're going to try to infiltrate this Imperial Prison. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good issue coming up. But let's talk about what came out in this particular issue. So first off, I like seeing how Luke is kind of in that mess hall. He's in that mess hall with Han, with Chewbacca, and they're just hanging out, having a drink. And long and behold, who shows up is no Wedge Antilles, right? We have Wedge Antilles. We also have Zev, and we have Hobby. Yes, Hobby from The Empire Strikes Back, who, you know, wants to take on the Empire himself. You know, that kind of guy. And it's really nice seeing these pilots coming together, and what it is they're all, especially Luke, is remembering all about Red Squadron, and just remembering all the people that gave their lives that day at the Death Star, including Biggs. And you never really get a lot about Luke thinking about Biggs, so I thought it was a great moment when he's sitting there reflecting, because ever since the destruction of the Death Star, I mean, we have this entire comic series, and these rebels, they really don't get a lot of downtime. They're always out there doing something to try to save the galaxy, to try to build up this rebellion. So seeing them in this situation where they're able to reflect is something that I thought was really welcome to the series, and I really want to see more stuff like that. Now, moving along, this is a spoiler for Star Wars Rebels. If you guys have not seen the season finale for Star Wars Rebels, you might want to skip this part of the video, maybe a minute or so, because, well, we see two characters. We see Hera Syndulla and Zeb Aurelios. I thought this was fantastic, and it was really worth it because we have the Rebel High Command. So we know Hera is a general, and she's part of the High Command, so it's very fitting to see her. But I was very surprised to see Zeb there, because at least with the ending of Rebels, they do say after the end of the Battle of Endor that Zeb and Kallus, they go off on their own to Lor San. But it seems like for the moment that Zeb is sticking around. Zeb is going to help Hera Syndulla, and that really makes me wonder about Sabine as well as Captain Rex and Kallus. I thought I might have seen this version of what looks like Rex. Maybe not another guy with a bushy beard, just like Return of the Jedi. You think it's him, but it might not be. But anyway, I thought it was awesome that we see these characters of Rebels. It was very, they were in the right place. You know, it wasn't like it was forced. Like, this is High Command, they should be there. And speaking of High Command, it was also really neat seeing Akbar, as well as Mothma and Jan Dodonna. So you see the whole crew there. And what was really interesting as well is seeing General Draven, that guy from Rogue One, actually having a conversation with Leia. And Leia is the one that brings up this whole battle plan of them trying to get this king out of prison. And, Draven is just the same way he is in Rogue One. He's very, he doesn't think it's going to work. And he's saying, well, we should probably try to get another planet at this point, because it doesn't look like it's going to be too easy. So that, to me, that was a pretty cool connection there. And just want to touch a little bit upon the Changeling as well. I thought that was a nice little connection to the prequels, which I always really like to see the connections to the prequels, because they're part of Star Wars. Even though you don't like them, you could still say that there's a great world building sense in that particular trilogy. So not only did we have comics this week, but we got 8 brand new episodes of Star Wars Forces of Destiny. They're all on the Disney YouTube channel right now, so let's just quickly go through them. First off, we have Run, Rey, Run. And this was Rey on Jakku, and she was basically fending off this Tito and basically saves the guy before the Star Destroyer collapses. So even though he stole something from her, she still had to save a life. So it just shows you the compassion of Rey. The next one we have is called Hasty Departure, and this is between Sabine, Chopper, and Hera. I particularly like this episode just because the Lambda shuttles were in there. You don't see a lot of them in the animation of Star Wars, so every time I see them, I think they look like an awesome design. It was interesting how Hera and Sabine they steal the wrong shuttle. You have Chopper steal the right shuttle, and of course they have to jump ship in mid-flight, and it was a pretty exciting one. And the next one we have is called Unexpected Company. This one's between Padme, Ahsoka, and Anakin, and this whole premise is pretty much for Ahsoka to realize that Padme and Anakin are dating, in a sense, because they go through this part where they're going in a ship through the Separatist space, and things are getting kind of hairy, and you see Padme holding Anakin, so Ahsoka puts 2 and 2 together to figure that one out. And the next one we have here is called Porg Problems, and this one is about Rey. She's on Ahch-To, learning from Luke. She's trying to lift rocks with the Force, and there's Porgs in the way. But that's what's really important about this particular episode, is that it shows that Rey has been training using the Force to levitate the rocks, so that by the time we get to the end of The Last Jedi and she's lifting up like 50 at once, it makes kind of sense that she knows how to do that, because she was already learning that. We just didn't see it on the film. The next one we have is called Shuttle Shock, and this one is about Rose and Finn and BB-8. They're going toward Canatonica, and next thing you know, they're in orbit, and there's these big jellyfish things, and basically, Finn has to take a crash course with flying this shuttle, and that also kind of strengthens up The Last Jedi with why the heck they parked on the beach to get discovered, because, well, it looks like their ship might have gotten damaged from them, and Finn had to make a crash landing or something of that regard. The next one is called The Path Ahead, and this one is very interesting because it has Mark Hamill voicing the younger version of himself from Empire Strikes Back, with him training on Dagobah with Yoda. So the voice just took me out of it, because obviously he's 35 years older than he was when he did that part. So he sounds like the Luke from The Last Jedi in the body of the Empire Strikes Back Luke. But it was kind of neat because you do see Yoda go into that blue bag for the first time, and then Luke puts the bag on his shoulders. There's great music in there, and Luke is learning how to use the Force and let it flow through him as he's jumping and using parkour skills to jump through the branches of Dagobah. The next one is arguably the best one out of all these. It's called Bounty Hunted. This is during that period between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Yes, the only other thing that has taken place between that period of time in canon has been that young reader novel, Leia Moving Target. So in this one, it is about Leia meeting Maz Kanata for the first time. So that is our confirmation that, you know, Han has met Maz before the events of the Battlefront 2 game or whatever. They've known each other for a while because she knows that Maz Kanata is on this planet. Now, somebody was saying that the planet could be Ord Mantell, and I think it could be. But anyway, it's interesting seeing them come here, and Leia's asking, like, how do we get Han out of this predicament? And Maz says the answer is right here, and it turns out that there's this bounty hunter named Boushh. Yes, that's the disguise that she wears in Return of the Jedi. It turns out that Boushh bounty hunter is there, and Leia basically, with the help of R2, takes this Boushh character out. The armor fits her perfectly, and that's where we see her going to Jabba's palace for the most part. So right there, that was awesome connective tissue. And the last one we have is called Jin's Trade, and this one just was non-consequential for me. It's about Jin chasing down this Shadrafan little bat alien creature to get this food, and then she ends up giving the food to the thing at the end, so it didn't really make much sense at the end anyway. And the last thing I want to talk about is the progression update for Star Wars Battlefront 2. So if it's been a while since you guys played Battlefront 2, you might want to jump in and check it out because there's been a lot of changes. So loot crates are completely gone. Now there is a leveling based system for each one of your classes. So you level your troopers, your starfighters, your heroes, and every time you level up by playing games, you get a skill point, which then you can select a star card for that particular hero or trooper or ship, and you'll be able to specifically buy the star cards that you want, and you can upgrade them the same way. Crafting parts are no longer going to be in effect. Any crafting parts that you have will be transferred into skill points next month in the April update, and you will also get a whole bunch of cosmetic items. So cosmetic items will be bought with just credits, as well as you can buy the cosmetics with real life money. So there is no more like random chance. When you get the money, get the credits, you can buy the specific skin that you want, and there is no kind of pay to win schemes in the game anymore, right? So the only way you can get the things that enhance your character's abilities is by actually playing the game itself, by leveling characters by playing the game. So you're not going to be able to buy the skill points with the actual real life money. So that is huge to me. That is how I thought the game should have been at launch. But, you know, EA, I guess, just wanted to get a little more money for their content, so they did it that way. And, you know, I hope that the game picks up. I really do. I hope that this kind of reinvigorates the game community, because at its core, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a whole lot of fun. It's a greatly diverse game. There's a lot of different modes you can kind of participate in. There's a lot of great maps. And speaking of maps, in this particular update, they snuck in an old map from Battlefront 1. That's it. We're going to have the Administrator Palace, I think it is, or Complex, whatever, from Bespin. So it's that smaller map. It will be used for heroes versus villains as well as blasts. And it's great. I jumped in there, and you can actually play any map that is new now automatically in arcade. So if you just want to jump in like me and you like to just check out all the environment, do a walkthrough, and not have to worry about getting killed by XXX521, you know, idiot guy, whatever their gamer tag could be, you don't have to worry about that. You can go into your arcade mode and just explore. So that is really cool for me, at least. And as far as the overall game, there's a lot more polish now. When you're playing the game in the middle of a match, it'll pop up to say if you've completed milestones. It'll also have a nice little pop-up to say when you leveled up. So there's a lot of little quality of life changes that have occurred in Battlefront 2. So just to reiterate, the progression update is out today. You will be able to start leveling up your heroes, but you won't be able to spend your credits on cosmetic items until next month. Now, next month is like a week and a half, you know, at the recording of this video. So hopefully in the beginning of April, we'll start seeing a rollout of some of these skins coming out. So that is going to do it for another episode of This Week in Star Wars Canon. We had some comics, we had some TV episodes, we had some video game news even, so there's a lot to discuss. Let's talk about it in that comment section below. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. I have plenty of other Star Wars content as well as other content, including Sea of Thieves, the brand new pirate game that has come out this week. I've had my live stream on it, so make sure you check that out there, and please subscribe because it helps me out and it'll keep you guys up to speed so you never miss another video. My name is Starrapter, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.